Hello, ladies and gentlemen. Welcome to Watch More Movies. Today we will be talking about my favorite movies. I am your host, Ricky, and if you're tuning into the show, thank you so much for your time. If you listen to the intro of the show, you'll know that today, in my first full episode, I will be talking about 30 of my favorite films of all time. I am 30, so it kind of only makes sense to make it an even 30. When it comes to myself and getting to know how I enjoy or judge films, when I describe one as a favorite or the best, I don't pretend to be 100% objective about it. I learn things about films every day, so when I have a ranking or favorites, it'll be a mix of personal favorite and what I think is the best. But in no way is it meant to be definitive or the end-all be-all. Just my opinion and what I like the most. Personally, I love that people love what they love, even if those things aren't always for me. That is what's great about art or cinema or books or music or TV. If you love only horror or comic book movies, I hope I can reach some of you and convince you to watch something new and not Superman or Friday the 13th for the 8th time, which is totally okay and totally fine. I just love the feeling that if you'll let me, I can open your eyes to new films and give that first time experience of seeing something cool or original for the very first time. So with that part out of the way and my own mindset of that, let's get into it. My 30 for 30. A couple caveats. My top 10 is always going to be fluid, especially 10 through 3 for what holds personal to me and in sentimental value, and what are ones I will defend endlessly. But to be honest, if you love something truly, you don't need to defend it. It's going to be what you love. Number 2, each of these films at some point or another will be in longer form episodes down the road, so I won't be diving into each one super in depth, just going over them briefly. Just like any sort of list, honorable mentions are movies that some days could be in my top 10, but as of today aren't, and they are not in order. There are dozens more that could have made it into 30 through 11, but didn't even make that cut. At the very least, this is a solid 30. And now, 30 through 11 in no order whatsoever. The first one up is 2019's Once Upon a Time in Hollywood from Quentin Tarantino. Aside from Inglourious Basterds, this might be my favorite of his. Something about this one in particular just feels very special and sentimental, but nostalgic in a way that I personally can't relate to, but you feel it in every frame of the movie. The way he shoots it feels like something that is stuck in a time period that he never wanted to leave in the best way possible. Until it fully comes together, story-wise, it feels like his own personal hangout movie and reflection on stardom, life achievements, and a sort of euphoric remembrance of what Hollywood was and what he hopes it still could be. And this may be his best work on a script level, and aside from that, DiCaprio and Pitt probably give some of their best performances of their entire career. Next up is 2023's Killers of the Flower Moon, directed by Martin Scorsese. This may be honestly one of his best films, and not just because of my own personal biases being native. It's a true story, so you can read about what happened, but he put it best in one of his press tour interviews. It isn't a whodunit type of mystery movie, but more of a who didn't do it, and that is what's so brilliant. It's how he ties that concept to the emotional arc of the story and Molly's character as a stand-in for the Osage as a whole during this horrific time period. Now, to me, what's so brilliant about the direction from Scorsese in this movie is that he doesn't give you a sense of, oh, I understand why Ernest is doing this, and you feel for him and you feel sorry for him, which to some extent you do. You obviously know why, but as it plays out more and more, you can feel your empathy leave as he does more and more without giving too much away. It isn't obvious or in your face, but his last scene with his wife kind of wraps it up the entire arc of the character the best. And when the day comes and I do finally decide to dedicate an entire episode to Martin Scorsese, and trust me, there will be one, this is going to be a movie that's worth talking about a lot. The next one up is 2014's Chef, directed by and starring Jon Favreau. This is honestly just a personal favorite comfort film of mine. I love food and I love a good road trip. So with likable characters that move the plot forward and swiftly, obviously combined with food and a good road trip, you really don't need to overcomplicate the story. A father trying to connect with his son while trying to reconnect with his own passion that he lost love for, and the purpose between those two things connecting, it'll get me every time. Alright, 2004's Shaun of the Dead, directed by Edgar Wright. Really a light satire on people's reliance on technology, but on the surface, just a really smart slapstick comedy that plays into the zombie tropes while paying homage to the ones before it. What stands out about this one and many of Edgar Wright's films is the silliness within the mundane. For example, the two scenes of Sean walking from his home to the shop, same exact shot, but the differences in the world around him as the zombies have gone around and infected everyone that was in the background in the previous scene, with Sean going completely undetected. It isn't played for him being quirky just for the sake of it to make you laugh, or to make the scene go to a screeching halt and go, ah, and then run away. It makes some quippy, lazy joke. It plays, lets you sit with the absurdity, and then keeps you on your toes since you don't know if anything pops out at a given moment. And honestly, it just fits perfectly with the character that Wright has established from the very beginning. Alright, moving on to 2018's Game Night. Maybe my personal favorite R-rated comedy of the last 10 to 15 years. It's smart, cares about the filmmaking needed for the kind of heist slash mystery, and also plays into the slapstick comedy, but not relying on it to just make you laugh at a forced moment. It's an R-rated comedy that doesn't feel the need to shoehorn nudity or sex to keep your attention or make you laugh. It's just smart about the way it uses its characters it's established to make you laugh and get you to actually care and feel invested in them at the same time. It's also one of my wife and I's favorite films to watch together. It's just easy, and if we ever have a friend that has never seen it or heard of it, it's a huge treat for us to get to introduce it to them for the first time. Continuing on, the next one up is Lord of the Rings. I'm counting the entire trilogy as one film because I don't think you can really remove one from the other. It's a little bit cheating on that end, but it's not that serious. It's probably the most complete, fleshed out trilogy of all time, and honestly, from beginning to end, the most perfect. Every plot and scene feel necessary and intentional. Of course, the prolonged production and source material do help this, but every aspect of this entire series feels perfect. Even the sweeping epic action doesn't feel like a bloated mess, and the characters are well written and realized as any drama you could ask for. One thing specifically that I love about this franchise, and especially this trilogy, and most franchises fail to do today, is give good exposition, but always get you to understand this world without overcomplicating it. It's very sweet, and every single backstory feels necessary to the entire world building that you have to buy into. Another film that's just incredibly influential, especially if, say, you love Christopher Nolan, it's 1995's Heat, just the best heist film to ever be made. There's a reason that so many filmmakers have been influenced by this one. It's because it's the epitome of the subgenre, in my opinion. Honestly, there's not much new to be said that many people haven't said about it, but the restaurant scene between De Niro and Pacino is just perfect. Even 30 years later, the film looks like it was shot yesterday, and the sound design is just pure cinematic bliss. Even when watching on a bigger TV at home, I've personally never been able to see it in a theater, but with even a half-decent sound system, which is really just the TV sound, every shot fired and glass break feels like you're right there, right in it with them. The only other note on this one, rest in peace Val Kilmer. His last scene, using only a single look, is just shattering. Next up is 2015's Mad Max Fury Road. It's the modern blockbuster that uses practicality and special effects and blends them in what may be the most effective way to use them in modern movie making. If you have a chance to catch this at an anniversary screening, or if you have a big TV at home, do so immediately. Setting the action and practicality of all to the side, it's an emotionally engaging movie. You can really watch it on face value of a well done and crafted action film that is just gorgeous, has likable characters, but it does have quite a bit to say despite the bizarre setting for an action film. Taking an extremely left turn with this next one is 1952's Singing in the Rain. It's really just a feel-good journey from beginning to end with great music, dance numbers that just make you want to jump up out of your seat and dance every motion you see from frame to frame and step by step. It's considered a classic and possibly the greatest musical ever made for a reason. You could watch it in black and white and feel the colors just pop off screen. It's obviously in color, but if you saw it in black and white, you still would feel the vibrancy in every single frame. Another bit of a left turn is 1989's Do the Right Thing from Spike Lee, an ensemble of characters living out their daily life in Brooklyn in subtle and not so subtle disharmony, as it escalates into a commentary on racial tension and political disarray. It's a comedy to drama to trauma, which makes for Spike Lee's best film. Another director who, yes, I know I have to watch most of his other films, but I'm confident in saying that it's most people's favorite, and as of right now, it is mine as well. We're going to be taking quite a bit of left turns with these honorable mentions. The next one up is Y Tu Mama Tambien from 2001, directed by Alfonso Cuarón, a road trip romance between two friends and their uncle's wife that is about discovery as well as self and what it means to miss your youth and what it means to be in your youth at the same time. The sex in this movie actually feels important to these characters, which a lot of movies don't seem to do nowadays. It just seems to be thrown in for the sake of it. But this one, it feels like it actually has an emotional impact on each of these characters and what it means to their own personal journey and discovery of their own selves. And then later on, it takes on a whole new meaning with the maturity and understanding of what actually comes with it. Each scene adds something new to each of these three characters, and as they interact, brings another dynamic and importance to their journey. Following up that one is 1985's Come and See, a war film that is possibly the most shocking and disturbing of any I've come across, and the most shocking and disturbing of any film that isn't a horror movie per se that I've seen in my entire life. Some of the images, after just one viewing a few years later, are still burned into my memory. I do want to see it again, but it is so hard to bring myself to it. I know from frame one and every subsequent one will it be pure dread, just building up until the very climax of the film, which is just seared into anyone's memory that sees it. All right, next up is 2022's Decision to Leave from director Park Chan-wook. It's a layered and heartbreaking murder mystery, sort of, that takes time to unveil what the themes are, but once it starts to unfold, you may still have questions, but it becomes that much more sweeping and also ominous at the same time. I know I do need to revisit this one and probably will soon, as his new film is coming out in a couple months, but Park Chan-wook is truly one of the most underappreciated filmmakers amongst the populace, and it's very, very exciting to see his new film's trailer out. It's just really my most anticipated, so I had to get that one out. The next one up is going to be a bit of a workaround, just like I kind of did with the Lord of the Rings, but it is Before Sunrise and Before Sunset from 1995 and 2004, respectively, directed by Richard Linklater. I still had to see the third one in this trilogy before midnight, but the more I sit with the first two, Sunset and Sunrise, the more they grow on me. Some of the best examples of what if love stories and two characters just walking and talking for the entire movie. I think that if you watch these without knowing there are sequels, or even if you do but don't read anything about them, you get something profound out of each one in a completely different perspective. I hate to call them sequels or a trilogy because it feels like it cheapens them, but they really do feel like chapters in a book for these characters' lives, which is ironic, but watch them and you'll see it is very inspirational in a very profound way. Alright, the next couple aren't going to be any less sad, so just kind of bear with me through my sad boy selections. The first one is Moonlight from 2016, directed by Barry Jenkins. Just an emotional childhood, teenager, adult story told through one character's perspective that just completely rips your heart out. And if you want a music score from a movie to just be incredibly heartbreaking, listen to Nicholas Bertel's score on this and you'll feel it in every single second. Finding yourself in a world that doesn't want you to be yourself but being stuck is just hard not to feel for. It's one of the rare Best Picture wins of the century that feel genuine and 110% deserved. Then we're going with 2023's Past Lives from director Celine Song, another what-if story that never turns anyone into characters with ill intentions or spite for things that just happen to people as they grow up. It's about two best friends or childhood sweethearts that are reunited and each finding something they want in each other, even if it isn't what they are meant to have or what they are meant to be to each other. It's a deeply personal story that feels like Celine Song is projecting her own memories onto us, but it makes us feel like they are part of our own past. Next, we have 2016's Manchester by the Sea. I won't say much about it, but when I first saw it, my mouth dropped at two scenes in particular and the dialogue that went hand in hand with the performances. It isn't a music swelling or sweeping over the top drama, but on purpose. And when those moments do come, the build up is released and given some of the greatest acting I've ever seen. This feels like a character study that doesn't beat you over the head or try to tell you what to feel. You follow the character, played by Casey Affleck, brilliantly and feel every moment he has to endure and the circumstances around it. It feels like a real point of view of grief and how one processes that, and it's not always going to be in your face about it, and it is really just a perfect sort of representation of grief for someone who feels like a real deep loss. All right, 1996, Wes Craven, Scream. It's a classic for a reason. It's so influential, and it set a precedent for slashers to subvert expectations and even be surprised by the expected, which is what it tells you not to do, but in doing so, subverts those expectations. It's utterly genius, such a fun franchise. It's probably one of my favorites, and all the entries are top notch. Even the rebooted sequels that came out recently were a lot of fun, and 6 might be my favorite after the original. 1974, Texas Chainsaw Massacre. It's another one of my favorite slashers. A weapon, without even being used, is not as effective in slashers as a chainsaw. You hear that sound and your skin immediately crawls, at least for me. Props aside, every scene of this sets a layer of dread that might be obvious to modern moviegoers, but can make the hair on your arms stand up if you don't know what's coming. To me, it's so scary because there is no soul or reason for Leatherface to be killing you, but it is just what he does, and he doesn't feel sympathy. Even though you start to understand with the sequels and reboots why he does or what he grew up in, you can kind of see that in the original. It's really bad circumstances for anyone to be living in, but he's portrayed in a way that doesn't give him that sort of sympathy in the original. All right, the last one of the 30 through 11, again, no particular order, is 1968's from Stanley Kubrick, 2001: A Space Odyssey. While I think other films inspired by this are more ingrained into my brain due to age and impression when I saw them, this is no doubt a perfect film, and somehow, after only having seen it this year, may have outdone it as my favorite Kubrick film. Not quite. You'll see why in a little bit. I can't wrap my head around it, and everything about this film is just something that makes you think so much. I had to see it again on the biggest screen possible if I can. There's no way a film that is 57 years old looks this good in comparison to anything made today. If you want a smart and thought-provoking sci-fi film, this is the epitome of that. I'm a sucker for movies that explore the idea of, are we alone in the universe? And this does it perfectly. Alright, here we go, my top 10. Number 10, Alien. If you've never seen Alien or don't know what it's about, just think crew, deep space, alone on a ship, something's not right, and all hell breaks loose. I believe I first saw this about 10 to 15 years ago, if I recall, at home on my small TV. If I remember correctly, I bought it on a whim when I first started off my Blu-ray collection and knew it appealed to me on just a surface level, but I'd not really invested myself at that point into films that are older than myself. What I got was just a completely eye-opening experience on the mastery of minimalism and suspense, both from a practical, production design, dialogue, character, and creature standpoint. At least the original Alien doesn't attempt to bog you down in backstory or exposition. When it does hit you, that scene with John Hurt regaining consciousness, no matter what you think at that moment, you know, or are eyebrow raising yourself at the suspicious nature of everything with Kane being okay. 30 seconds later, you got the sense everything is okay because Ridley Scott gets you invested back into that crew and that illusion of safety, just perfect. The xenomorph design is just the coolest thing to me, and it's probably my favorite sci-fi horror. Number 9 is Call Me By Your Name from 2017. It's a perfect summer modern romance, and with the backdrop of Italy, it just makes it that much more romantic and beautiful to look at. I first saw this back in the fall of 2017 at an incredibly fragile and emotional time in my life to that point, It was my second year at the Chicago Film Festival, and it was one of those movies that, you know, just really, on a very, superficial level, it inspired me filmmaking wise, but on a very personal level, it just hit the notes that I was feeling at that time, and just every single emotion that I was feeling in my personal life was just at the surface level of my face after the credits rolled, and I was just a bawling mess. It's one of the most biggest emotional third acts I have seen, and that's personal to me. It's gorgeous to look at. The performances are incredible, and once you see it, you just want to be in Italy. Honestly, it's just so beautiful. All right, number 8 is, funny enough, titled Just Your Name. It's an anime, which I'm not typically huge on anime, but this one, again, at the right time in my life, hit me. It's about two teenagers who share a profound magical connection upon discovering they're swapping bodies. It was the spring of 2017 that I saw this at an AMC that I used to live nearby. It was early afternoon. It was one of the last show times it was available on. I just started sort of broadening my horizons on what films might appeal to me. I heard about it a little bit, but then I actually saw Chris Stuckman's review on it and immediately went to that theater because it was almost out of the circulation of showtimes. Similarly to Call Me By Your Name, once the credits rolled, I was just a tearful mess. Only this time, funny enough, I was by myself in the auditorium and not a packed festival house. I had never been super enthusiastic about seeking out anime in general. To this day, it doesn't really quite jump out at me, but when stories like this are easy to grasp and fall for, it hooks me. The animation is just simply stunning and jaw-dropping, even almost 10 years later. And whether or not you buy into the sci-fi aspect of this, it's completely your preference, but I did, and it truly just wrapped me up in the blanket of this world and these characters, and I fell in love with just every single aspect of this. One moment your heart is swelling and crescendoing, and the next is a moment as quick as quiet as a needle drop to hopelessness and sadness, and then hopeful and longing for resolution the next minute. It's just truly an emotional roller coaster, and you fall in love with these characters the minute that they come on screen. I can't highly recommend it enough. All right, number 7, There Will Be Blood from 2007, directed by Paul Thomas Anderson. I don't really quite remember when I first saw this. It had to have been probably in the early 2010s, but another one of those movies that I just kind of heard it was great, that it was this and that, but every single thing I heard at that point about the movie lived up to my expectations. It is an American epic in the most traditional sense. Nothing I express about this next sentiment is going to be anything new, but Daniel Day-Lewis gives probably the greatest performance I have ever seen in a movie. Everything deep down, subtle or not, about this character is brought to life by Daniel Day-Lewis, and whether it's clear or not, you understand him and empathize him to some degree, and whether or not you agree with him or not, most of us probably shouldn't, is completely up to you. It feels like this is the biggest grand scale character study that really just digs into the depths of hell of power, greed, and capitalism. This is another one that, as I'm trying to find the words to describe it, it just may need another rewatch. I could watch this every year. It is stunning. It is maybe not emotional in the traditional sense, but there is something deeply disturbing and heartbreaking about this character, where he comes from and where he's ended up. All right, so number 6 is a very personal one to me. If any of my family is listening, they'll know that I love this one since I could start watching movies. It's The Jungle Book, the original one from 1967. I mean, they all called me Mowgli when I was young because I looked just like him. So it's of course the least objective selection in the top 10 or really any, but it's just, it's my favorite Disney movie. It's not as good as, if some like The Lion King or Beauty and the Beast, but it's the most personal to me, the most, again, like I said, non-objective, it's the most subjective. So I'm gonna just claim this one, number 6, The Jungle Book. Not ashamed of it. I just love this from beginning to end. Okay, so top 5. These movies all were influential to me on either an emotional level or on a me falling in love with the art form level. Everything about these movies they honestly go from number 5 could be number 2, or number 2 could be number 5. They all have the same value to me. I'm not going to just pretend like there's a specific ranking for these. Lists at this point in general are just they're fun to make, but I love these movies all the same. So, but if I had to rank them, these are it. Number 5, The Social Network, 2010. It's one of the first movies that wasn't, big action sequences and this or that really got me invested in two movies. It was another one in the early 2010s. Heard it was a big awards movie, this and that. I like Jesse Eisenberg from Zombieland, so I was like, I'll give it a shot. Blown away. It's my favorite David Fincher movie to this day. It's something I've seen at least 20 to 30 times. Not even an exaggeration. Obsession, power, and very tragic of a story. Obviously in retrospect to this day, I don't really feel much sympathy because, Mark Zuckerberg, Facebook, but on its own, in a vacuum, it's a very tragic story of this character who lets all these things get to his head and sets a path of destruction on the way. Whether everything is 100% true to the story, it's really irrelevant. It's just a movie. We'll never know if all this stuff happened. It could have not. I'm sure it's all under, lifetime and more, NDAs. So we'll never know. But as a story, it's entertaining. It's very emotionally engaging, and it's really just terrific and the epitome of, quote unquote biopic of a company or a product of sorts, which we get a lot of today, but nothing will ever be as successful or as good or engaging as The Social Network. Alright, so number 4 is 2018's Burning from director Lee Chang-dong. First time I saw this was winter of 2019 in early January. I really wanted to see Steven Yeun in something that wasn't The Walking Dead. I loved at the time really just driving as far as I could, if possible, to go see special screenings of movies, smaller films. This one was at the University of Chicago. I didn't go to school there, but they had a screening you could buy tickets to. Anyway, I'll never forget that beautiful snowy weather. My wife and I were dating at the time, and it was just a nice little sort of last minute-ish trip to the city to go see it. It was kind of slushy out and everything, not really super snowy. Loved the movie, came out, and it looked like a winter wonderland. Both of us will never forget that night. And that's also part of my sentimentality toward this movie, is just the night of first seeing it. Personal sentimentality aside, this movie is incredible. It is about a young boy in South Korea who runs into a childhood friend of his, and when she asks him to watch her cat while she's out of town, he does it, and then when she returns, she brings a friend along who she met on the trip, and there's not quite, it's not quite perfect as what it seems with the friend that she brings back. That's all I'll say. It's a mystery, but it's also romantic at some points, but there's a lot to say about dynamics between friendships and relationships, and there's definitely some societal undertones and themes that run along through it, but I would highly recommend it if you want to give South Korean or Asian films a shot. It's incredible. It's my favorite foreign language film of all time. I know it's very recent and there's more I have to see, which I will be, but this one has just stuck with me the last 7 years since it's come out. I watch it at least once a year to try and find something new, and it seems like every time I do, there is something new for me to find, and I really hope that some of you take this recommendation. Out of all of them that I've listed today, this one is the one that I hope you seek out the most. Number 3 is La La Land from 2016. I'm sure many people have seen it, but there's also, I'm sure, a lot of people who have not, mainly due to the fact that it is a musical. It is a modern day musical. It is one, again, that holds such close reverence in my heart and my personal enjoyment. And on a personal level, as far as my wife and I go, we love this movie. This is our favorite movie to watch together on any special occasion that we find a reason to. We first saw it opening Friday night. We had a date night, and we had seen Damien Chazelle's other film to that point, Whiplash, on one of the first dates we went on together. And we were so excited for this movie, and it was every expectation we had for it was just exceeded beyond our wildest dreams. To this day, like I said, it's one of our favorite movies to watch. It is a incredibly romantic film. It is a love letter to everything Hollywood, from Rebel Without a Cause, American Paris, Singing in the Rain, Umbrellas of Cherbourg. It is such an homage that doesn't feel like ripoffs. They feel like just complete reverence for the classics that have come before it. Ryan Gosling, Emma Stone, their chemistry is just so natural. I know they've done a couple movies together, but something about this movie just feels like such old school Hollywood perfect matchmaking as far as the characters go on screen with the actors. A large part of that obviously has to do with Damien Chazelle. He is, to me, one of my favorite modern directors. Every single movie of his has meant so much to me, and I know a lot of people aren't huge fans of this movie, some of our closest friends, but this, to me, no matter what, to the day I die, I will love this movie. I love everything about it. I don't care if the movie's 2 hours, 3 hours, 4 hours. Every second is meaningful to me, and this is obviously one of my favorites for a reason. Number 2, back to horror, 1980, Stanley Kubrick, The Shining. It is the most unsettled I've ever been watching a movie. It was another one, again, like some of the others before this, early 2010s. Rented it, bought it, I don't remember. I just heard a lot about it, heard it was scary. I was getting more into horror at the time, and I thought this was just going to be kind of cheesy. My eyes and my palate weren't really adjusted to older movies. I just thought it was going to be slow. And to some degree, it is very slow, but very deliberately, intentionally. And the best way I can describe this and my experience with this is just a slow burn until it isn't of pure dread and unknowingness of what is going on, that, like in a lot of horror movies, you kind of get a grasp on something and you feel like you're in control. This one, it feels very mythological and very like you don't know what's going on, and in that of what's not, what you don't know what's going on, you don't have any control, and you don't feel like you can grasp onto something that's going to help or that's going to stop whatever's going on. It feels like inevitability, and that's the scariest thing, is the horrifying aspect of no matter what happens, you're screwed. And the camera work in this movie, along with the production, is so beautiful, and so, again, I use this word already, and it is the perfect word to describe it, so I'm just going to keep using it. Dreadful. Dreadful, dreadful, dreadful. It is the scariest movie ever made. If someone says it isn't, either they're lying or, maybe it's just not for them. But if you love horror, this is one that I will debate. Again, it's all subjective, but to me is the scariest movie ever made. And it is hard to watch sometimes, but it is so fun as well at the same time. All right, so finally, number 1, my favorite movie of all time. If any of you know me personally, you know what this is. 1990, Martin Scorsese, Goodfellas. I was introduced to this movie sometime in middle school. My dad popped it up one Saturday afternoon. I think slowly but surely, this is where the flicker of a flame that is my passion for film started. I can't quite articulate, even to those who know how much I love this film, how much it truly means to me. Maybe not for the same emotional reasons as something like La La Land does, but for reasons said and unsaid, it never really feels stale. And it feels like every time I've seen this, I've watched it for the first time. I read the novel a few months ago, Wise Guy, that this is based on. The difference is very minimal. There's a ton of stuff that's left out, but that's going to be the case in any adaptation of a real life event or adaptation of a book. Every frame of this movie just gives you a jolt to your soul. Whether you're into it or not, it feels like a roller coaster, and it feels like it's never stale. I should have looked this up. It's off the top of my head. I know it's over 2 hours, might be 2.5, but it feels like it could be 5 minutes long. Everything about this movie just flies by. You never get bored. If you do, again, subjective, but to me, something I could never get bored of. It's my favorite movie of all time, consistently my favorite director of all time. What I think Scorsese does so brilliantly here is make you feel energized by this lifestyle, like it's a devil taunting you. You know it's bad, but there's something so intoxicating about it that you just want to be in it. You just want to live in this world. And then he proceeds to show you, sandwiched in between the glamour, the bad side of things and why you shouldn't want to. If you don't see why you don't want to, that's more subjective, I suppose. This becomes more apparent, I think, as a cultural talking point in 2013's his own movie again, Wolf of Wall Street, which is great as well and in the same vein, but I think many casual moviegoers take the wrong perspective from it, whereas Goodfellas, I think, is a little more easier to say that you don't want to live like that because it's the mob and the mafia. Again, just like Killers of the Flower Moon, this is one that on a Scorsese full episode, I would really love to dive into more, but for all things considered equal, this is my favorite movie of all time, favorite Scorsese. Nothing could ever knock that away from me. This is every time I've seen it, every time I watch it currently, it makes me fall in love with movies more and more. I can't get enough of it. If you've never seen Goodfellas, I really, really encourage you to. Maybe it won't be your favorite movie of all time, but if you even like it a little bit, you'll see why it's mine. All right, that was my 30 favorite movies of all time. Thank you so much for listening to me talk about those. The next episode of the first of the series I'll be planning to do, Director Dives, is going to be about possibly a modern horror master, or is he? That'll be my hint. Once again, thank you so much for listening and taking the time out of your day to listen to me talk about movies. If you want to keep up to date on the show and when I post, you can go to Instagram at podwatchmovies or on Bluesky at watchmoremovies.bsky.social. I'm not on Twitter, don't have a Facebook, so please subscribe, Apple, Spotify. I promise YouTube is coming soon if you prefer to listen to it on there. Again, if you watch any of these movies today, please let me know on those social media accounts. Please let me know. If you know me personally, you can text me. Just let me know if you watch any of these. If you haven't seen them before, if you rewatch them after I talked about them, if you have any questions about them. I love engaging in conversation about movies. Obviously, it's my favorite thing to do of anything. So please ask questions, recommendations, anything you want me to talk about in the future, anything. Once again, I can't thank you enough for taking time out of your day to listen to me. And until next time, watch more movies.